smiling for months.
Well, it was, it was pretty interesting because the bike length that I got, we held it through the two middle legs. And then Frank Heckel, who was a star swimmer in his, in my era, he was anchoring against Gary Hall, who was, in my view, the best all-around swimmer in the world at that time. Able to do fly and back and even fake breaststroke, and was a great freestyler. He took off about a half mile length back of Frank Heckel, and Frank told me right after the relay that he let Gary come up to his shoulder, and then he decided he wasn't going to come any farther. And Frank was able to hold him off, and we were able to win that relay. That was a big deal because they had the stars. They had Gary Hall, obviously, Mark Spitz leading off, who was an American and world record holder, and John Kinsella, who was the Sullivan Award winner as the outstanding amateur athlete in all of the sports. And then
silver in Mexico City. Let's not forget that at 1500.
And then also Freddie Tyler, who was the guy that beat me out for the Olympic team. And so they had 4 stud guys, and we were able to take them down, and that was a pretty big thrill.
And how far off the team title were you in your closest?
In our closest, we were, I think, 18, 19 points in a 500-point meet in my junior year. And that was we actually beat them in the swimming portion, but they have divers and we didn't have any divers. And so their divers scored points, and because it's a swimming and diving title, we actually did not win the team title by virtue of the fact that they had divers and we didn't. So
could have been worse. It could have been synchronized swimmers. Okay.
It was just, that was a huge disappointment for me because I really wanted to win the team title. At USC, we would have been given a watch, and that would have said NCAA champion. We had the Flyers here, and every time you win an NCAA title, we would get a tie tack back in my day. I don't know what they do now, but we would get a little tie tack. And I had 6 NCAA titles, 2 individual and 4 relay. And so I had 6 tie tacks, and unfortunately I lost 3 of the 6 in the fire. But I did find the other 3 by virtue of sifting and doing all kinds of things. They're not really very visible, but I know exactly what they are, and it's kind of cool to have those. And I was able to say some other stuff, my NCAA medals and whatnot, and those are quite cool. I did lose the world record certificate when we set the world record down at the Pan American Games in 71. And so that was kind of a disappointment, but it's the way it is. It's okay. And that was kind of an unusual situation. We had 4 guys that I felt we could break the world record in the 800 freestyle relay. You're not recording this, hopefully not.
Yes, this is all very cool.
Okay, well, in any event, we had 4 guys, and I pulled the other 3 guys away, and I said, we have a team right here that can break the world record in the 800 freestyle relay. And the coaches saw us all hovering together, and they said, what are you guys doing? And I said, we're going to break the 800 freestyle world record. And they said, oh, okay, well, that's cool. And so we actually did it. And I was extremely pleased that we were able to get it done. And it was a huge thrill. It was my only world record as a real swimmer, as opposed to master swimmer, was on that 800 freestyle relay. And they paraded us around the pool and did all kinds of things. And I remember my father, we were all very, very thirsty, and he got these old Cokes in Coke bottles that you can't get anymore, in glass Coke bottles. And he brought 4 of those down plus 1 for himself, and somehow snuck onto the deck and gave us those. And that was a pretty cool thing. And the Pan American Games were held in Cali, Colombia that year in 71. And it was, a tough time down in Colombia. We had to have armed guards on the buses anytime we would go anywhere. And there were, as I understand, there were 4 Cubans that quote unquote committed suicide by jumping off the top of the building where they were, the apartment headquarters where they were staying. And there was a lot of allegations that they may have been pushed off because they were trying to defect. And so it was a pretty interesting overall contest.
Who was on that relay with you, the world record relay?
We had Frank Heckel, Tom McBreen, and Steve Genter and myself. I think it was Tommy. I believe Tom McBreen was the other party on it. Shoot, you're asking me hard questions, and I'm old.
Steve, wasn't there another famous swimmer recently in Rio that had a problem with armed guards or guns or something?
Yes, but
there's
no way I would. Jim in his era and his current era. I mean, he's been one of the most fantastic ambassadors of the sport, bar none. I mean, Jim, you've elevated the sport. You've always been a gentleman. You've obviously in the interview, you've always spoken highly of your peers. You've always mentored people. I've seen you at your pool in Ventura. You've always lent a hand to, it doesn't matter if they can do 100 in 3 minutes. You've always been there for everybody in the sport. So there's no way.
Well, one of the ones that's pretty interesting, we have a gal on our team who is significantly obese. And, it's a tough thing to talk about someone's weight to a female. And I asked the other girls on the team, can I say something? Because she was definitely losing weight and she was doing it over a period of time. And she has now lost 150 pounds and is still working towards losing more weight. And, I can talk to her about it, and I approach her very cautiously because, that's something that females are very sensitive to. And just very pleased. And, she's gone from barely making across the pool to now being a consistent regular master swimmer and doing extremely well. And so that's wonderful. I applaud anybody that can do personal improvement like that.
Yeah.
We have a gal like that locally, and I sent a message to her the other day that said, I think I saw your younger sister down at the ocean the other day. She was looking extraordinarily sleek.
Isn't that wonderful? A personal improvement like that is fabulous. And I just, and I'm happy to. I generally call the workouts in the deep end for the long distance swimmers, and we'll have as many as 12 or 15 people that want to do my workouts that I call, and we modify. I call workouts based upon time intervals, so that people can go the same whatever their time interval is, and we set it up, and we have 3 lanes typically, and so. Depending on the speed level of the swimmers, we'll put people in different lanes, and it works out extremely well. And so I'm just very pleased about that. I mean, to take Karina when she set the record in Anacapa, that was a huge thrill for me. And I remember talking to her. I don't know, it was maybe about 6 weeks before the channel. I said, Karina, you're swimming very, very well. I said, if the channel gods give you a day, you can break the overall female record. And she just looked at me in amazement. She said, I've never broken a record in my entire life. I said, you know that I know numbers. I'm a numbers guy. And I said, this is something that you can do if you get a day. I said, you're training very, very well, and you're there. And it turned out that she was able to do it. And I just was extremely pleased. She broke the record by only 1 minute and 22 seconds in a 5.5-hour swim. Very, very close. It was wonderful. Her father was on the kayak, and so they had a wonderful father-daughter moment. It was just, and that was a huge thrill. I was on the boat and, trying to support and cheer, and I just, it was a wonderful thrill.
Steve had an experience with one of the Irish swimmers a few years ago named Anne-Marie Ward. She's about 5'1" and round. It's probably the best description. And she won the World Open Water Association Woman of the Year a few years ago. And I think she presented in New York. And she stood up, and you can imagine the crowd that was there. It was a Hall of Fame induction for marathon. And she said something to the effect of, she said, you folks really aren't going to believe this. She says, but this is the first time I ever won anything in the swimming, anything. I never got a third, little ribbon or anything in my entire life. I thought it was very sort of genuine and pleasing kind of thing for the sport where you can, all the body shapes, you can find a way to excel. You can finish, you can pioneer a new swim. It's one of the unique things about our sport. It doesn't happen in track and field.
Well, we're very fortunate to be swimmers.
Yeah.